this. It's a great opportunity for me to see my friends again. So I always enjoy that. And the topic is something that, I have encountered, obviously, just in teaching and being a friend to people, but it's not something I've really focused on, in the way that these three guys have. So I have questions that are both timeless and time bound to the very strange way many of us have been living for the last 2 years, So one of the questions is, what are some of the, well, I mean, it can go both ways. What are some of the benefits of practicing meditation and yoga with your kids? And I have those two time frames, or the timeless and the time bound frame, both in mind. So I don't know if one of you would like to start.
I guess I'll start. I got kids.
Yeah. All right.
So I know with my boys, it's a way to connect on a deeper level. We do a lot of fun stuff. We go to all the cool Marvel movies that come out. We do stop animation videos. We go camping. We go hike. We do all types of fun stuff. But connecting on a deeper, more spiritual level that you can get with meditating with your kids is a beautiful thing. And it also gives you to give your kids a way to develop more resilience, to become more aware of themselves and their surroundings, how they treat themselves and others, and to have a deeper capacity to love themselves in the world. I think you gotta help. As long as they can own the practice and it's not you imposing your will upon them, it'll work. But I feel like those are the major benefits. And it's another cool activity to do. I mean, like if you make it something that they enjoy, and it's not like a punishment for them, then it's another cool activity for you all to do together, or for my boys to do together, or for them to do separately.
I think one of the cool things about the amount of time that we have been doing, being of service to different communities and kids in general, is we've been doing it for 20 years, and a lot of the kids that we started working with have children of their own now. And it's beautiful to see how the practice has helped them get stronger mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. And, they saw how it really drastically changed the trajectory of their lives, have them being able to be more grounded, more present, be able to respond to things instead of react, which kind of helps save lives and helps people thrive, is that they pass these tools on to their kids. And at a younger age, our kids got them young. They were in elementary school, middle school, but our students' kids are getting it maybe around 2 or 3, really, really early. And, that's the one thing that one of the things that all of our teachers are trying to pass on to their kids is the way to be able to be centered and have that peace within if the outward reality or environment is chaotic. So, I think that, it really gives people a tool and, especially kids, a tool during this chaotic time with, cyberbullying, with, the pandemic and, all that stuff. They need as many tools as possible. As we all do.
Well, I think about, the two of you in particular, when you describe your childhood, you felt a little bit weird because you were the yoga family or the vegetarian family, and bringing your own soy hot dogs to the barbecue or whatever. And I wonder if, first of all, you're teaching cohorts, you're teaching groups, so they have a little instant community right there. And if there's just generally some more acceptance or understanding of these tools.
It would have been cool as hell now. You know what I mean? Back then we were the weird kids, but now, everybody does yoga. Everybody's vegetarian. It's not a weird or thing that's out there. It's in the cartoons the kids are watching. It's all over pop culture. It's on the cover of magazines. There's nowhere you can't go and not get something vegetarian. You can even go to steakhouse and get a vegetarian meal. So it's all these things are there, and it's not as strange. It's not as taboo. It's not as weird. So I think it makes it a lot easier for kids. And I think the cohort thing you were talking about makes it easier too, because it's an entire, like the community we grew up in. When Atman and I grew up there, we were pretty much the only weird kids that were doing these practices. Now, all the kids are doing these weird practices because they all go to the school that we serve. So it's like, and then their parents are learning about it. The parents are getting into the practice some because the kids are going home and teaching them. So it's just kind of like it's, you drop the pebble in the pond and the ripples keep going out. So it's like those ripples are constantly going out further and further and further.
And I think adding to that cohort story, when you said that, what popped in my mind was our Mindful Moment program at Patterson that works with, the entire school as a cohort. And that's the program that got highlighted, got, viral attention, changing attention to meditation, where, we have a recording played at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day to get the kids centered before starting school so they can be more present, more grounded. And at the end of the day, to kind of boost up their energy before they have to go into their own environment, back into their home environment. But we also have a mindful moment room or alternative suspension room that's in the school that's dedicated to contemplative practices. We have staffing the room. And, when kids come in, when they're in crisis, they can either self-refer when they're in self-refer or get referred by the teacher in high school. But in middle school and elementary school, the teacher or administrators have to send the kids to the room. When they get there, we just drop in, really actively listen to the kids, teach them a breathing practice, which will kind of get them back to homeostasis, and, give them some tea. And, we've got miraculous numbers back in regards to how that program has, brought down suspensions, increased attendance, increased test scores, and all that stuff. And all the numbers look great. But I think the thing that kind of showed us about like the shift in the culture or creating a culture there was when the principal of one of the schools, Patterson High School, where they got highlighted for, a huge fight on the internet. Our first year down there was like a school-wide brawl. And then, we were up there for like 1 or 2 years. And, it finally started catching on the practices and, us having mindful ambassadors, which is like we train 10% of the student population to be able to, help out their peers when they see them in crisis, or lead practices before tests, because we have practices that help out with test anxiety. And we've actually changed that culture there. And the principal said that one day, because our staff goes out and works with teachers also during their planning break, because, teacher turnover is a real big thing in Baltimore City. So giving them tools to kind of for self-care is very important. So it was one time all of our staff was doing that and the door was locked. He said he came in and saw a student sitting outside of our locked door, sitting down, cross-legged, crisscross applesauce, and meditating and doing breathing. And the principal said this blew his mind because a couple of years earlier, kids would have, and it's in one of the most crowded places in the school. So for him to be able to get centered speaks volumes about his practice when people are walking up and down the hallway. And then the culture, it says a lot, where he said that back in the day, kids would have just punched him or kicked him because he was open. He was, not really paying attention to his surroundings. But because people would look at him, oh, he's just meditating, let him do his thing. It's really, changing the idea and making it part of pop culture. It's making everyone know what it is and practice it one way or another. So, it's a beautiful thing.
It's wonderful. And Andres, speaking of pop culture, have you seen Encanto yet? Have you seen the movie?
I did, yeah. I saw it.
Okay. So we have the same. We're on the same fan clubs for different people. So one of the things that struck me in watching it was, we keep hearing about the terribly hard time kids are having these days. Maybe their parents are working, but it's scary, or they've been stuck at home, whatever. School's open or it's closed, or it's open, it's closed. But watching that movie, I thought, man, kids know a lot, and like, because it's supposedly, it's a Disney movie, it's supposedly a kids movie, but it takes place in Colombia, and there's, you know, intergenerational trauma. There's like a big theme in the movie, and the
Oh, yeah.
consequences of terrorism, you know, a generation ago. And sometimes watching it, I would think, wow, this is a kids movie. And then I thought, they know, they live it.
Yeah. It's intense. There's definitely some intense parts in the movie. I was the same way. I was like, I thought this was gonna be all happy go lucky and singing, but there's some stuff in there where, you know, I think it's like you said, though, I think kids are wise enough to know what's going on with the world these days, and they are being impacted by a lot of these things that we as adults probably don't even know that they are feeling, you know, especially with social media going on. You know, they have access to so much stuff. And I know when I talk to my nieces and nephews all the time, I'm always blown away by all the information that they have and the things that they know is actually going on. And when we're talking about stuff that I think that are more adult topics, they're aware of it, maybe even a little more than I am, because I'm not on the stuff as much as they are. But you know, I think that's a big part of why we do what we do as well. You know, Atman and Ali were touching on it about earlier about how, you know, the benefits of what these practices do for individuals. And when you are faced with stuff throughout the day and you're constantly bombarded with stuff, you know, whether it is stuff on the media or in your neighborhoods, or all that external stuff, or just stuff that you have going on within yourself, that the self-esteem issues, the doubt, especially coming from the bullying and stuff like that, that Atman was talking about. You know, I think a big point of what we try to do is just provide people with tools and techniques to allow them to be able to handle and deal with all this stuff that's going on these days. You know, it's like, put your force field up, put your shield up, and all that stuff won't impact you as much. And hopefully you'll be able to use these techniques in a way to be able to find that place of peace that you can go to whenever you want to. You know, you can, you know, for them in the thing, it was kind of like their home was I don't want to ruin it for people, but the home was the peaceful place. You know what I mean? It was this magical place, and stuff happens in the home. And it all comes back to how important, you know, having that foundation is, because once home starts crumbling and crackling, everyone starts going at each other's throats, and everything's it's this craziness, when really the most important thing is the stuff that we talk about all the time, and that we'll be doing another one of those conference soon about love being the most powerful force in the universe, and how that connects everyone and unites everyone. And in the long run, that's the stuff that really helps out, you know. So I think that's a big part of what we at HLF are constantly doing, is just reminding people to love each other and to see ourselves within each other, and to use these tools and techniques to get us through those tough times, you know.
So, I mean, I certainly know in terms of adults countering stress and difficult, painful emotions, the emotions that, you know, maybe our whole childhood we were told, well, don't go there, you know, like, let's cover that over, and have these practices directly give us tools, as you say. And so is it really like the same tools for kids? Is it just adapted so the language is comfortable?
Yeah, it's the same tools. It's just like you know, our teacher always told us you can teach you know, the same truths or the same techniques, but you have to speak to, you know, speak their language, whoever you're speaking to. So, you know, with you know, somebody like an adult in a drug rehab center, we would have to talk about, you know, how these practices will help them get certain thoughts out of their mind to make them not be able to beat themselves up. That usually leads to them abusing again, or using. But with kids, that same practice, the reason why we would make it more practical, because it's all about making these practices practical. We would teach them about, you know, how for test anxiety. You know, the reason why a lot of kids don't do well on tests is because they are, you know, thinking about the past, where they might have failed a test in the past, or you know, they may have gotten in trouble that morning before coming into school, and they might keep replaying that in their mind, or they might be worried about the future, which causes anxiety, where am I going to do well on this test? And that same practice, it will help them clear their minds, not to not use or abuse, but to be grounded and present so they can achieve at a high level. So it's all about packaging.
Mm-hmm. Someone put a question in the chat, which I'll ask now, and then go back to some of my questions before you lead us into practice. So what is your advice for trying to teach your children ways to respond instead of react with siblings arguing and getting in fights? So would it be starting with, I mean, I know you can't go into enormous detail, but thankfully we have the course and other things, but is it like take a breath, learn how to come back into your body, or is it about pausing?
I think some of it's about talking to your kids about what love and compassion are. Like Atman and I, we may get into arguments, but it's always over quickly. Like we've never gotten into a fight. Actually, there was one time he stole the bathroom from me, and I punched him in the arm in middle school. And he told everybody I punched him in the arm, and I got in trouble from all the girls in our class. But that I feel like that was the only time we ever came physical. But like even with my boys, it's like, you know, making them understand early that like out of everything in the world, this is the person that you're stuck with for the rest of your life. Like you're going to be with this person. So like if you don't have anyone else's back, like have their back and make sure they have your back. I remember, I don't remember where we were, but we were talking to someone about how I think we were actually about to fly to Denver, and we were at the airport bar. We were talking about something that happened with my kids, and my youngest had done something that they shouldn't have done, and my oldest covered for him, and like totally covered for him. And I was like, look, I know you guys are not telling the truth, but I'm not going to get upset with you because you covered for your brother, and that's what you're supposed to do. And the guy behind the bar was like, that's great parenting right there. I'm like, you mean like, because they have to, like, you know, like I feel like kids need to know that your siblings have your back. Like you fight with the rest of the world. Like your home has to be your sanctuary. Like that person has to be that person you can always turn to, you can always go to. And like without a doubt, like you can worry about the rest of the world and people saying they have your back and then doing the opposite, or saying they're this and then doing the opposite. But you know that person right there has you no matter what. And I think if you still in your kids early, like it's something that goes on. Like my kids, like my youngest still walks, like he's 10, the oldest one's 15. Like there's times I'll still see them like walking across the street, and my youngest will grab his older brother's hand and like even walk to the car, he still hold his hand, or like give him a big hug randomly. So it's just like, I think I mean, we got practices for it too, but I feel like those conversations are good ways to start off.
Somebody's asking, can you share what it is that you actually do with the children? What's the practice that you teach them? What works and what doesn't? So if you want to discuss this, and then maybe we can have you, one of you or more of you, lead us in a practice for about 15 minutes, and then we'll go back to questions.
Yeah, I'll jump into it. I can actually talk about the practice that I'm going to teach. It's a variation on a loving kindness practice. There are so many different parts to the practice that benefits kids. You know, it's one thing that I know Ali always says, where, you know, they're analyzing kids in a lot of the schools that are dealing with a lot of undiagnosed trauma. And we're asking people to care, these kids to care about other people, care about their environment, care about achieving in school, care about resolving conflicts peacefully. And it's really hard for kids to do if they don't really care about themselves, have that inner foundation full of self-love. So this practice does that. It allows kids to awaken love within themselves. Also, in regards to siblings argue, we've seen, you know, we hang out, we're blessed to hang out with a lot of neuroscientists, and, you know, they always talk about neuroplasticity, creating new ways of thinking. And the thing that we have seen is with this practice, it allows people to respond instead of react to confrontation. A lot of kids who might rely or not peacefully resolve a conflict early in our programs are easy to resolve conflicts peacefully, for the simple fact that, you know, instead of having people rent space in your mind, what by you like saying, oh, I hate this person and I hate you, you know, because we also teach them that what you put out comes back tenfold. But then it's also one of those things that if you send love to those people that stress you out and make you angry, it's a release, or you evict them from renting space in your mind. So, you know, that's, you know, one of the tools that we see, like the neuroplasticity happening in the kids and changing the way that, you know, they once, you know, responded or reacted to things, and start responding and not get paying to, or focusing on that. And hopefully that makes sense. But, you know, the loving kindness practice has so many different benefits, and I can jump into it now if you all want. All right.
I think that's great.
Okay, let's jump into it. So if you could Maybe move to the edge of your seat. Have your feet grounded, back, neck, and head aligned. And I invite you or welcome you to close your eyes. If you don't feel comfortable closing your eyes, you can soften your gaze, close it 9/10 of the way, or you can leave your eyes open and look at one point on the wall or something like that. But we recommend that you close your eyes just because, you want to limit the distractions. But it's totally up to you. All the breathing that we're going to be doing is done in and out through our nose. And we're going to take a couple deep breaths together, then jump into the practice. So everyone inhale through your nose, long, slow, and deep, filling your stomach up with air like it's a balloon. Fill it all the way up. Then exhale, squeeze your stomach in, push all that air out, squeezing your belly button to your spine. Inhale deep again through your nose, long, slow, deep breath, filling your stomach up with air like it's a balloon. Fill it all the way up. Then exhale, push all that air out. Remember, exhale through your nose, long, slow, deep breath, squeezing your belly button to your spine. Inhale deep one more time through your nose with that long, slow, deep breath, filling your stomach up with air. Fill it all the way up. And exhale through your nose, long, slow, deep breath, squeezing your stomach in. Push all that air out, belly button to your spine. Now you can just breathe on your own at a nice, natural pace. Don't put any effort into it. Just make sure you're breathing in and out through your nose. And we're going to start using our imaginations. With every inhale, we want to feel and see ourselves pulling in all the positive energy that the earth has to offer us inside our body. With that in-breath, really feel and see that positivity come into your body with your breath. Whatever that looks and feels like to you, feel and see that on that inhale. And with every exhale, we want to feel and see ourselves pushing out any negativity from within, any stress, any anger, any jealousy or resentment, any sicknesses or ailments, anything at all that's inside of us that we know that's not healthy for us. We want to use our imagination and feel and see it leave our body with the breath. Once again, whatever that looks and feels like to you, that's all we're going to feel and see as we breathe. Once again, on that inhale, pulling in that positivity from the earth. On that exhale, pushing out that negativity from within. Once again, that stress, that anger, jealousy, resentment, sicknesses or ailments, anything at all that's inside of us that we know that's not healthy for us. Feel and see it leave our body with that out breath. And, just like in life, when you try to do a meditation, a silent reflection, or, variation of a loving kindness practice, distractions can arise. If you do get distracted, never beat yourself up. That's the nature of the human mind. Just acknowledge it, whether it's a thought, sound, or sensation. Don't fight with it. Let it pass. And when it does pass, bring yourself back to the breath. Once again, on that inhale, pulling in that positivity from the earth. On that exhale, pushing out that negativity from within. All right, we're going to use our imaginations again. And this time, with every inhale, we want to feel and see ourselves pulling in all the healing oxygen from the trees, plants, and bodies of water. And we want to feel and see it energize and replenish our internal muscles, bones, and organs. So really feel and see that with every inhale. And with every exhale, we want to feel and see ourselves pushing out all the stale carbon dioxide, feeding the trees and plants that gave us oxygen. So once again, with every inhale, feeling and seeing ourselves pulling in that healing oxygen, energizing our muscles, bones, and organs. And with every exhale, pushing out that stale carbon dioxide, feeding the trees and plants that gave us oxygen. And whatever that looks and feels like to you, just feel and see it. There is no right or wrong with this practice. There just is. And this practice is all about extending the time or the amount of breaths that you can remain focused. If you can only stay focused for 3 breaths, then you get distracted. Never beat yourself up. Have empathy towards yourself. Let that distraction pass, whether it's a thought, sound, or sensation. Anchor yourself back with the breath. And also, once again, we're focusing on inhaling that healing energy, energizing our muscles, bones, and organs. Exhaling that stale carbon dioxide, feeding the trees and plants that gave us oxygen. And once again, if you got 3 breaths, then you get distracted, try to get 4 breaths and 5 breaths. It's all about extending the time or the amount of breaths that you can remain focused. And it's less of a battle with yourself than it is a play, but definitely try to extend the time of breaths that you can remain focused. All right, we're going to use our imaginations again. And this time we're going to focus on all those people that we love, whether it's our family or friends, no matter how far away they live, no matter if they're living or not. Love knows no boundaries. So with our breath, all we're going to focus on is sending our loved ones love with our breath. Once again, whatever that looks and feels like to you, just feel and see that as you breathe. Sending our loved ones love with our breath, no matter how far away they live, no matter if they're living or not. Love knows no boundaries. And once again, if a distraction arises, never beat yourself up. Have compassion for yourself. Just know that that's the nature of the mind. Once again, acknowledge what distracted you, thought, sound, or sensation. Don't fight with it. Just let it pass naturally. And when it does pass, once again, you can just anchor yourself back with the breath. And right now, we're feeling and seeing ourselves sending love to our loved ones with our breath. Once again, whatever that looks and feels like to you, that's all we're going to feel and see as we breathe. Sending our loved ones love with our breath. All right, we're going to use our imaginations again. And this time we're going to focus on all those people that stress us out or make us angry, whether it's family or friends, coworkers or clients, politicians, people in our communities, whoever it is that stresses you out or makes you angry. We're going to send them love with our breath. Even though they stress you out and make you angry, they probably need love more than anyone else. And you all know whatever you put out there comes back tenfold. So always lead with love. So once again, with our breath, all we're doing is sending love to those people that stress us out or make us angry. We're sending them love with our breath. Once again, it's a great way to evict people from renting space in your mind. Or in other words, a release. So once again, with our breath, send love to those people that stress us out or make us angry. We're sending them love with our breath. Whatever that looks and feels like to you, that's all we're going to feel and see as we breathe. And just another reminder, it's all about extending the time or the amount of breaths that you can remain focused. If you do lose focus, just acknowledge what distracted you, anchor yourself back with the breath, and try to get more and more breaths each time you do lose focus. And right now, once again, we're focused on sending love to people that stress us out or make us angry. We're sending them love with our breath. Whatever that looks and feels like to you, that's all we're going to feel and see as we breathe. There is no right or wrong, there just is. All right, we're going to use our imaginations again, and We've sent love to people that we love. We sent love to people that stress us out or make us angry. Now it's time to send love to the most important person in your life, and that's yourself. Once again, if you start with your inner foundation full of love of self and taking care of yourself, it makes it that much easier to love and take care of others going forward without burning yourself out. So once again, all we're going to focus on is sending our self-love with our breath. Once again, whatever that looks and feels like to you, that's all we're going to feel and see as we breathe, filling our inner foundation full of self-love with our breath. And once again, if you do get distracted, always have empathy towards yourself. That's just the nature of the human mind. Acknowledge the distraction, let it pass, and then anchor yourself back to the breath. And once again, sending our self-love with our breath. Whatever that looks and feels like to you, just feel and see that as you breathe. All right, we're going to use our imaginations again. And this time we're going to focus on sending love to planet Earth or Mother Earth and all the inhabitants that reside within: animals, plants, humans, inanimate objects, anything at all that resides within planet Earth or Mother Earth herself. With our imagination, we're going to see ourselves sending love. So as you breathe, we're sending love to planet Earth or Mother Earth and all the inhabitants that reside within: animals, plants, humans, inanimate objects, sending love with our breath. Once again, whatever that looks and feels like to you, just feel and see that as you breathe. And just another reminder, this practice is about extending the time or breath so that you can remain focused. Always have empathy towards yourself if you do lose focus, but always remember, it's about extending the time or the amount of breaths that you can remain focused, and less of a battle than it is a play, but definitely try to extend the time or breaths that you can remain focused. And right now, we focus with our breath, sending love to planet Earth or Mother Earth and all the inhabitants that reside within with our breath. All right, we're going to slowly bring ourselves away from our breath and back to our body. So if your eyes are closed, you can keep them closed, and we're going to start wiggling our toes. You can wiggle your fingers. You can roll your ankles and wrists. And you can do a neck roll both ways just to stretch your neck out. And whenever you get ready, no rush ever, but you can slowly blink your eyes open and come back to your senses. Hopefully you all enjoyed that practice. And, like I said at the beginning, this is our go-to, whether it's kids or adults. But with kids, we have seen them tell us, like, when they're dealing with a situation that's somebody's getting excited at them and kind of trying to make the kids upset. We see our kids say, well, I ain't even got to worry about you. I'm just sending you love. So we actually see them changing their behavioral patterns, not overnight, but with practice. That's why it's called a practice, not a perfect, takes time.
That's so great. I love these sort of different ways of expressing what are really the same principles, like learning how to center, right? And use the word anchor, like anchor your attention, not feel so all over the place. Learning to cultivate just enough space from one's emotions and thoughts. It's not like as you know, it's not like a cold distance, but it's enough spaciousness so you can see that anger, or you can see the thought, I'm going to punch the kid in the mouth, and I always get the best stories from you, which reminds me, I'm writing a book. I need some stories. I'll send you a list of topics. But, so that I think everyone, whatever age you are, we're empowered by that, not to just have a thought and suddenly we're in the car fulfilling it. You think, wait a minute, what am I doing? But we have enough space, so we really have some choice. And then really what I think you were emphasizing in that sitting, which is, I always call it the stretch. It's like I'm used to thinking about myself and all I think about is my faults and my issues. But how about if I spend a few moments just wishing myself well, or here's this person who's helped me and really I don't think of them at all, like I've totally kind of disregarded how much they've given me. And how about if I spend a few moments just recognizing, wow, I'm really grateful. Or I love the way you phrased it, people who stress you out, because there are those as well in life. And learning just to be flexible in how we pay attention, and not just going over and over and over and over and over the grievance one more time. And so it's the same principles that really appear, I think, in any practice. And then I want to ask you also about the yoga part of it and what role that plays.
You're talking about like the movement process, right?
Yeah, the movement. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. So I mean, a lot of times people may not know this. It's something we've learned throughout doing these practices. I mean, beyond staying fit, right? There's a lot of techniques and practices to keep your body. We had the 5 rights that are in the workshop that we have that we put together for them, and a few other postures. Just they're nice, simple, basic techniques for anyone, all ages, people that can use them. And get your body right, which is important nowadays, right? Especially with what's going on with COVID, everyone's stuck in their homes. I think a lot of times people aren't getting that circulation going that they need to be getting in their bodies. It's so very important. Get up, stretch, do a little bit of movement. But also, a lot of the youth that we work with, a lot of trauma is stored in their bodies, right? So the trauma is stored in there, and in order for you to be able to feel a little more comfortable working with your body, and that movement helps. It assists that comfortability and feeling like, okay, because sometimes, I think all of us have this where you have things that you may not even know that you've kind of pushed down there. It's a lot of the similar things you were saying, Sharon, in terms of like that self-bullying almost, right? Where you're beating yourself up. You don't achieve something that you want to achieve. You may have made a mistake. You failed a test that the universe has placed in front of you, and you get that negative dialogue in your head of, God, you're an idiot. Why don't you do better? What's wrong with you? Types, those type of things. But I think it's very common with people. I think, the movement at least helps with feeling comfortable in your body, so that then you can move on to the breath work to be able to soothe and slow your mind down. So then you can then meditate to be present and in that moment. So I think it's a process. But I think it spreads on multiple levels, whether it's assisting with the trauma and also just getting your body right, moving and getting that circulation going.
I think I just had this memory of sitting in a classroom, watching a very, very early, it was called yoga class in Los Angeles. And these little kids, they were so cute. They were like 5 years old or something. And I realized that we were like all the same. Like they would do a pose and they'd say out loud, "I'm tired." Like this is hard. So we were all thinking that when we were doing the yoga ourselves, but none of us were quite saying it out loud. A number of people are asking, how old would a child be in your minds is the best age to kind of start? And how would you kind of invite them, as a kid? Well, of course, you work in school programs so that it's sort of part of the structure. These sound like parents. There's one grandma who's writing with basically the same question. Can you start when a kid is 5? How much time do you spend? 2 minutes, 1 sentence, just a smile? Or do you actually invite them to do an exercise?
I think the youngest we've started with is around, there was a daycare and the kids were probably like 3.5 to 4. And I think with kids that age, you were just talking about the movement. With kids that age, you have to start with movement. You're not just going to sit them down and be like, hey, let's sit down and meditate. Like, that's not going to happen. Like, you got to give them some movement so they can work off some of that energy, so they can be in their bodies. Then they have the ability to be still. After that, maybe a couple breaths, like just something simple. It was just belly breathing, just something to slow their minds down a little. Then just getting them used to being still. Just being physically and mentally still. Then you can get into other stuff, but I definitely think some movement, some breath work, and then just getting them used to like being, because I mean, sometimes kids will be sitting there and their leg is going like this. They're not even aware of it. And you're like, hey, I mean, let's, and they'll be like, oh, okay. And then they'll just start to slow it down, just getting them aware of their bodies. So, maybe a simple body scan, that loving kindness practice you can move to, breath meditation, just things along those lines, but just starting off slow and making it fun. Again, don't make it a punishment. It's got to be something that's fun, and it's got to be something that you can engage them in and they enjoy.
Yeah, just to build on that too, I think, that question's, it's tough because it really varies with the kids. We've had some kids that were in our programs, in our after school program, I remember, and they would be there for a week. And that next week they're leading the sunrise. They're leading the entire class. They just take to it. They're amazing at it. They love it. There's other kids who, same age group, kindergarten kids, and they're just looking at you like, I'm not doing this. I don't want to do this. And they could be running around the room and trying to be as disruptive as ever. And then, a few weeks down the line, then they're the ones leading the practice, or it could be a year down, so it really does vary. I think it just depends, with kids and where they are at that time in their lives. I think Ali hit it on the head though, with just that, making it fun and practical, relatable to them. You don't talk to them about taxes and student loans. You talk to them about, their favorite toy, and I don't know, like, is their brother picking on them, or their sister, or did they not get dessert they wanted? Just making sure it relates to them depending on the age group, so that, they'll find it as something that is fun, and don't, just don't overdo it. Ali's like been father of the year ever since I know he's had children, right? So he did such a great job with his kids where he didn't force it on them. They were around it all the time, but I know he did a really good job at being like, hey, like when they really want to start getting into the practice with me, then they will. He didn't like, you have to sit down and meditate with me. You have to do the breathing. That would have never worked. And now both of his kids practice, and it's just part of their lives now, right? So don't try to force it on them and make it that punishment, like Ali was saying. Just make it be part of your life, kind of lead by example with it, and then introduce it to them in a fun way. And nowadays, with cartoons, y'all, like we used to use the Avatar, The Last Airbender, the one that we used to use as an example for kids to watch. They have Korras out now, and they talk even more about meditation and stuff like that in the new one. So like, it's all over what these kids are watching, and use those examples of, things that they're seeing in their lives that are entertaining to them, that are fun to them. And they're like their heroes, and use those heroes as examples of like, hey, Korra's doing it, Aang did it. This, and they learn and like, oh, okay. And then maybe they'll be more willing to take that moment, to take that first step and to get the practice. And the majority of the times, for real, like once they feel that peace, right? Or once they feel that sense of just stillness and quiet that is so rare to all of us in this world at this moment, right? Just being, usually they're like, wow, I want to do more of this, right? And that's oftentimes it's all it takes to kind of like that aha wow moment, and you got them, and they're going to want to keep doing it more and more and more and more.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell me something about your satellite programs? What are they? What does that mean, satellite programs?
You have programs in space, Sharon.
You do?
Yeah. No,
Are you
I wish.
selling seats is the question.
No, you got to meditate your way onto our spaceship. We've been doing programs all over the place, and it wasn't crazily, it wasn't really sustainable. Like, we go somewhere, they fly us in, we go up there, we do some work for a while, then they have to fly us back, they're gonna put us up. It just wasn't sustainable at all. And a lot of the times the practices got lost. For the most part, once we were gone, unless there was a champion in the community or in the school that continued it a little bit. One of our mentors and friends, just used to always tell us that we need to figure out a different way because the best solutions were homegrown. So we've been doing work up at Akwesasne. It's a Mohawk reservation in far upstate New York. It straddles the Canada border. And we were doing work up there for a few years, and we actually talked to them about doing a satellite program, like setting up a holistic life foundation up there, run by people that are from the reservation, training people on the reservation to facilitate the programs. And that's what we've been doing. We're in our second year now. The program is going wonderfully. The demand for programs is through the roof. We're going to have to do a bigger workforce development program in the spring to train more people. But again, it's people from the reservation that we've trained to facilitate the programs and to direct everything. But the cool part is it's got HLF's infrastructure behind it, so that they don't have to worry about just all the things that go with running a nonprofit and making sure you can keep a nonprofit running, and then they can benefit from our practices and our experience, but translate them for something that works for them. Like a lot of times when we talk about light in a meditation, for them it's smoke. Like they talk about smoke enveloping you. So it's like just different things that mean different things to them spiritually than it would to us. And it's awesome. It's awesome to go see how much of an impact it's making on not only the community and the schools that we're teaching, but the people that we're hiring and giving employment to be able to share these practices with people from their community. And we're actually looking for a second site, not anywhere in space, but somewhere else. We're looking for a second site. Hopefully, we're just trying to identify it at some point this year, so we can get started on a second location, because I think we've got that one running. It's sustainable, and when you try something out, there are a few things you have to learn. So we learned our lessons. Now we want to expand to a second city.
I think why the program is going so well is, we sent 2 of our senior staff to live up in Akwesasne. One was up there for a year, one was up there for a year and a half and just came back. And what their job was to help our community identify community leaders who joined our workforce to develop a personal practice. A lot of people think they can go to a weekend training and get a curriculum and come back and just be, a great mindfulness teacher, but you need your own practice to really be able to excel, speak from a place of wisdom and embody the practice. So our staff was up there one day, 5 days a week. In the morning time, they would work with the people in our workforce development program or our satellite program to help them develop a practice. And then also our senior staff would go work in all the different demographics that we work with in Baltimore, whether it's elementary, middle, high, preschool, adult drug rehab centers, senior homes, just so they can see, like we were talking about earlier, how it's different practices, but it's just packaged differently to make it practical to the students at whoever they are that we're teaching. And then Ali, Andy, and myself go up there periodically during the year for some week-long intensive trainings. And then, after it gets off the ground, we go up there just to observe them in action and, tell them what's working, what's not. And yeah, like that is the blueprint to a successful satellite program. And we're going to take that blueprint, other places. But yeah, it definitely is beautiful seeing that culture being developed up there and, creating jobs for folks that might not have had jobs, just like we did in Baltimore. And then, giving people tools to be able to deal with and they have a serious amount of undiagnosed trauma on the res. So it's giving them tools to, be able to be resilient.
And I wonder if you can say something about, we may be hearing about this at the very end, but about this tricycle course, which I just clicked on from the chat, to see what you were actually doing. And it seems very practical to me that you're really offering a routine, not only to every age group, not only to the kids, but to the family member, who may be taking the course. So I don't know if there's something you want to say about that.
I mean,
You've
just to,
seen them. You've seen it work the other way around. I know I've heard you tell stories about the kids learn some things at school and then they bring it home to their parents. This would seem like it could be potentially an all family affair from the beginning, if that worked.
yeah, I mean, it's great to have the practice with everybody in the home. We've seen it work in schools where part of the school doesn't, part of it doesn't. One person's stressed out, they dump their stress on the other person. It works the same in families. Like, like the kids might be practicing, the parents might not be. The parents might have a rough day at work, and then just that stress domino, that stress is going down to the kids, or another direction. You know what I mean? The kids might have a bad day at school. The parents might be just got home and meditated, and the kids go home a while out, and everybody. But if everyone in the house is doing it, everybody's aware of the way that they're interacting with their thoughts and the world around them, their energy themselves, and then you're more aware of how you interact with other people, and you become less impulsive, you become less reactionary, you develop more compassion, more empathy, more self-love and love for the people in your family. So I think it definitely goes both ways, but there's huge benefits to everybody being on the same page, and then everybody can speak that common language too. So like you might be having a bad day, a parent could suggest to the kid like, hey, maybe you might want to try a couple stress breaths, or the kid could suggest to the parent like, hey, maybe you can practice a couple stress breaths, or hey, maybe we can sit down and do something together. Like, but everybody has that common verbiage, which makes everything a lot easier.
And I've seen also, like there are countless infinite creative ways that this comes into the way we say things and how we communicate, and it's very kind of personal in a way, but you get to see it, because those same skills of having a little bit of space from the things that come up in your mind and being able to make a choice and maybe choose loving kindness and knowing how to center, it all figures into that kind of creativity. So for example, when I was in Parkland once, teaching in Florida, and we were in someone's house, and the woman whose house it was maybe a first grade teacher, something like that. And she said, we have a mindfulness program at school. So I said, oh, what do you do? And she said, well, it's things like when a kid says, I can't do math, you teach them to add the word yet. And I thought, wow, like that's a stretch to call that mindfulness, but how perfect, because it's just what it is. It's like we close the door and we say, this is who I am, and this is who I'll always be, and I'm a failure, and I can't add 2 and 2, and everyone else in the class can do it, and this is just who I am. And it's such like solidifying that image, is not worthwhile. And when you just add that word yet, you go, oh yeah. It's why we call it a practice, not a, perfection. And just so many ways, I think the family shifts, the school culture shifts, hopefully the community shifts, as we just become more aware.
That's really a beautiful technique. I kind of feel bad for the kid. It's like, hey, I just told you I can't do math. How are you going to tell me to add something? Just joking.
Yet.
Yeah. Just add yet. Yeah.
Just yet.
Oh goodness.
And my last question, you're still doing programs with the emphasis of cultivating teachers? I don't mean school teachers, I meant teachers of these tools, so that it carries on in that way. Is that right?
Yeah, always. I think that's a big part of what we are. Our teacher told us that he wasn't teaching students, he was only going to teach teachers. And I think with us, we always use that reciprocal teaching model. So we're always getting the youth to be the ones to understand the practices, at their main core, and being able to go out into their communities and to help out, everybody, help out their peers, their neighbors, their siblings, their friends, their family, so that it continues to spread as much as possible. So it's not just, the 3 of us and our 40 staff members that are out here spreading the love, but it's everyone that they touch and everyone that they impact, they get a little bit of something, and it just keeps going. And it's kind of like Ali had said before, it's a domino effect of good stuff, though. You know, like we're just knocking out and just spreading love as much as we possibly can.
And we also do create teachers, like we, do trainings everywhere for adults. Up at Omega, we do a yoga and mindfulness for youth training, where we train people to take these tools out into their communities and try to be impactful, whether it's teaching in schools, teaching in community centers, we have seen that, they have taken these practices, and, somebody just brought us out to Gary, Indiana, and that might be one of our locations of our satellite program. They're bringing us out there to do, a lot more programming, and that connection. And I guess the person believing in the mission came from seeing what we did in our training and how much it can impact communities. And, I just love the ripple that's happening from, going to these different or facilitating these different trainings for adults to see, like Ali said, best solutions are homegrown. These people are taking these practices back home with them and making a change.
Okay, I think we've run out of time, I'm afraid. I assume Carolyn will come back and bid us farewell. There you are. Thank you all
guys
so much.
What a
Thank you
beautiful
so much.
practice, and a really wonderful conversation that's relevant for all of us, I think, whether we have kids or not. So thank you guys so much again. There is a link in the chat for $20 off the Mindfulness for Kids and Parents online course, which is a really great course exploring more of the kind of practices that were offered today. And we also have links in the chat again to donate to Tricycle and also to the Holistic Life Foundation. And we will be sharing an event replay link in a follow-up email, and it'll be on Tricycle's YouTube channel. So thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Ali, Andres, Atman. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. We hope to see you at another Tricycle event soon. So much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Guys, great to see you. Thank you
Good
for all
to see
the
you
great
too.
work.
Yeah, definitely great to see you, Sharon.
Peace and
Yeah.
love, everybody.
Love you.